Hello and welcome. I'm BJ Arnett, and this is This Day with BJ Arnett. We've got a very serious subject here, and it's serious in that it's near and dear to our heart because it involves our children. As parents, we want the best for our children. That means everybody must give them their best. And when you're talking about education and the needs of your child, some things really have to be looked at. I have my guest today is Ray Brashear. Thank you so much for joining us. It is important that we take a moment to recognize that we are talking about our children as they grow, as they learn, and as they become young adults.
Yes.
But many years ago, some 20-odd years ago, you gave birth to a young man.
I did.
Who needed you a special way.
Yes.
So talk to us about that.
Well, thank you for having me here today. It's
Absolutely.
Truly an honor, and I have two children, but this story mostly is about my firstborn son. You know, I can look back at times of my life and see how God has let me live out Bible stories, and I think that's been a great encouragement because he's carried me through how he already delivered someone else. And in these dark periods of my life when I didn't know what was going to happen next or why this was happening, I could always count on him to provide that next piece. And so what began with a difficult birth and birth trauma, my son had 26-hour labor.
Wow.
I had that labor. And there was cord wrappage and a forceps delivery. And so when he finally arrived, he was blue with no vital signs.
Oh my goodness.
And I was told to expect disabilities because of his birth. And I did not know what that meant. I was in that golden moment after you've given birth, and I just put him at the foot of Jesus. And I just said, make me the mom he needs for me to be so I can live out your glories for him. And I did that in the hospital room. And I think that's really been how this path started. At 2 years, 9 months, he was diagnosed with profound oral motor apraxia, which is the inability to speak. The motor pathways don't connect to let the tongues and lips create speech sounds. At age 4, it was a sensory integration processing delay, and then by age 5.5 or so, it was a suspected auditory processing delay because he couldn't speak, so we really couldn't get the right definition out. He was 5 years old before I heard him say, "I love you, Mama."
Oh.
So this process of not having my son be typical and having to do all the things that Atlanta had to offer him at that time, it's just exhausting. And all along the way, I was looking for people who could help me understand my son in such a way that I always got pieces of him, but it was never the complete. And my training as a Montessori teacher, I'm a certified Montessori teacher, I really understood education and found the right teachers along the way who could especially help him. But I was always on the path of looking for that next practitioner, next therapist, next thing.
Okay, Ray, I have from one mommy to the other.
Yeah.
The emotional upheaval, the frustration, the anger at our city, at our business community, at our educational system. I would be, you know, like just hearing it just makes me want to scream.
All the pieces don't fit, and everybody has a piece, but none of the pieces fit together. And when you're told you can't get services because you don't have this diagnosis code, but yet even though he falls under the qualifications, it was just like, how do I find out who can help my child?
Well, first of all, Ray, you've got something that we've not even discussed, is that when we have our first baby, we are punching in the dark at best. Anyway.
Right.
And then you find that your child needs something special that no one really has the full map to.
Oh my goodness.
It's almost like you're looking for buried treasure.
You are, and you know, you go through those mommy playgroup meetings, and everyone starts giving you these little looks, and then you get invited to birthday parties, and you're going to the jumpy house or the big place, and your child runs to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And you start being different. And I remember at church, all the 5-year-old moms are all together, and everyone's talking about their son's Little League baseball game or scoring the goal, and then they look at me, and I'm like, David goes to therapy, and he blew the feather this week across the table.
Right, and that is tremendous.
That's
They don't know that.
goal.
They don't know that.
Right, and so
they
you
don't
get
it.
you have to just continually to wonder, why is my son not doing these things? And so it was trying, but we kept trying, and that was just it. I kept pressing in. I kept waiting for God to show me the next piece. And so
And it's extraordinary, your faith walk from 26 hours of labor to the moment that they tell you there's something different, to the next step and the next step and the next step.
Right.
Every time you're knocked down, you have to rise back up.
Or I just
in
ignored them.
faith. Oh, girl, speak to my heart. Just don't hear them.
I just didn't hear them.
Yes.
You know, I just believed that what God had called me to do was my path, and I was just gonna walk it. So that's what I kept doing, and you know, through the trials and through the tears, I just felt God comforting me and encouraging me, and so He never wastes anything. He never wastes anything, and any experience that you give back to Him, He will give back to you.
Absolutely.
And so that's where I really found the greatest comfort, in that I kept meeting other mothers in these little groups and therapy waiting rooms here and there, and we were sharing experiences, and I knew I wasn't alone. We were all part of this tribe, but we're all going a little differently, but yet we're all there. So there's this huge community of people who I felt like, why am I coming up from Thomasville to Atlanta today to speak? And I think it's just to tell that mother who's listening today to press in.
And it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. It may take a while. I can't tell you how long that season is going to be, but it will end and you will find victory.
Every child is different.
Yes.
And during this process, you first have your boy, and then you have a little girl.
Right.
And you are juggling two personalities.
Yes.
And two little people personalities are always interesting.
They are. You know, and what I really have to say is, through the family coming together just as a family would normally, but my daughter could just bring heaven down over her brother. She could pray over her brother.
Oh.
It was amazing to watch how my children bonded. And she would speak for him, and he would protect her. It was just a very, 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 very sweet time.
There are moms and dads out there who are going through similar frustrations.
Right.
And don't get how to put this puzzle together. And don't know how to make it still family. This is one child, and then we have the other children. I hear continually that it's a constant, how do I put this family together as I give what seems to be the undivided attention to the one. Speak to moms and dads out there who really need strengthening in that area, because it's real.
I'm going back in time, and you know, it seemed like it was unfair that I would be going with one child to these different sessions and dragging the sister along with us, and that was our time bonding together in the car all around Atlanta. But I just have to say, the one that needs the attention, don't treat them differently in the home.
Yes.
They still need discipline. They still need encouragement. They still need all the same responsibilities that you would have of somebody else.
That's exactly the word I was thinking. They need responsibility.
They do, because they can still contribute. And that's where I think I had this profound opportunity by becoming trained because of what my son went through. I felt like I had a yeoman's degree in therapies, because I had read so many reports and sat through so many sessions and been to so many different specialists that I knew so much, but it still wasn't enough to help. It wasn't until 2005 that I found the thing that really helped my son traverse and make the most progress, and that has been the blessing of my life, is how all that has kind of come together.
So you've got to tell us what that is.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask.
I did. Let's go.
You know, God puts people in your path at just the right time. And when you can recognize that things are happening in a progression, you get really excited when you can see touchstones happen. And that happened for me when I met Judith Bluestone. She was the founder of the Handel Institute, and she herself, she has passed on sadly, but during her time that I got to know her, she herself was affected with autism and other disabilities, and transcended and created an approach that I found for my son when he was 8, and in 6 months, he had jumped 4 grade levels of reading ability.
Kidding?
No, we were in 2nd grade and had just transferred from a Montessori school to public school for better services.
Is that what brought you to Montessori?
No,
Was helping your son?
I was a Montessori teacher before I became a mom.
Oh, wow.
So I really have a passion for early
teaching.
education,
Yes.
for teaching. And the Montessori method is world renowned. It's
Yes.
over 100 years old, and it
Yes.
really helps the individual child go and progress at their rate. And as teachers, we're trained in development, and that was one of those touchstones I had. The developmental progression of just the normal child was the foundation for how we're trained, because we create a classroom that way.
Yes.
So my home became like a Montessori classroom for my child. I knew what to do, basically, to support what he was needing. But we transitioned, and the Iowa skills test was given, and it was determined that he was 6 months behind grade level. And so halfway through 2nd grade, he's in a 1st grade, 8th month reading level. Okay. That was the month that we began our HANDLE program. HANDLE is an acronym for the Holistic Approach to Neurodevelopmental Learning Efficiency.
Wow.
HANDLE. And we did our 6-month program with Judith, and I trained and learned a lot along the way, mostly about my son. That was what was different from every other therapy I had done. I was learning, they were teaching me about my son individually. Well, then we go through school, and then in May, the CRCT comes out. Well, you want to guess what his reading score was then?
What?
5th grade, 9th month. That was 4 grade levels of
Wow.
reading ability.
Wow.
This is the son who couldn't speak, could barely say his own name, couldn't make transitions, and now he's 4 grade levels ahead in reading.
Because of the way in which it was done.
Understanding the developmental progression that God already gave us. He gave us a perfect body.
Yes.
And understanding what his progression is for us developmentally, we are complete. We are made complete. And it's just finding out how to unlock those pieces in a progressive way. David went on to be accepted to an advanced gifted math and science school in Marietta, in the city of Marietta. He progressed normally. He went on to complete high school, and now he's a returning college sophomore.
Love it.
In the college of his choice, choosing his life, doing things his way.
You know, you're speaking to so many parents out there. And so I guess I have to say that I've got to continue the conversation, because there's just no way that you can train your child the way the American education system is set up currently.
I am so glad you said that.
Yeah, it's any child.
Well,
but you've got something special. You've got him. I only have 1 minute.
okay.
Tell people how they can get in touch with you, because I know you are a speaker, I know you're a trainer, and I know you're a woman of God first. So
Yeah.
how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I have, my husband got relocated to Thomasville, Georgia. So I currently am the Montessori teacher at Thomasville Christian School, and I have a private office there, and I'm serving Southwest Georgia in a whole new way, in the Panhandle of Florida. So your program is not just in Atlanta. This is going to be a statewide program.
Yes,
so
that's
I'm
so
available.
Awesome.
And there are Handle people here in Atlanta as well.
Handle. It's an
Handle.
important place in our lives when we discover how we can help our children
Yes.
and help one another as
Help
parents.
other mothers.
And moms.
Help.
Wow.
I'm a hug waiting to happen for a mom.
I love it. She's a hug waiting to happen. I'm BJ Arnett. I hope you all are getting the gist of this, because you're going to need to hone in on what God has for your child. Love you. Bye-bye.